On the line right now is the District Attorney, Scott McNamara. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Bill.
A lot of stuff going on, a lot of things happening, and we're going to try to focus in on just this one case.
Okay.
We had a gentleman, and Manaski has more details on this, from Rome yesterday, concerned over his son that he feels cannot handle going into court.
So I'll just quickly recap. Scott, I'm not sure if you heard the interview, and for the listeners who might have missed it, this person is saying his son has been battling brain cancer, radiation. He claims the charges are completely made up. You know, obviously, I'm sure how many people in the court system say, no, it's not true. And I have no other information on this case. He's basically saying because of the medical reasons and that his son is just coming off radiation and chemo and is exposed to these, could be exposed to different germs and bugs that could hurt him because his immune system's down. He had sought an adjournment or a delay anyway, and he's saying he's not getting it. He said earlier this week that his son appeared in court. He said he warned officials, I don't know if he meant your office or the court staff, that any kind of stress could trigger a seizure. He claims that his son did suffer a seizure this week. We wanted you on for a response because basically he's saying there's a real health concern here and it's being ignored.
Sure. Here's the facts of the case. His son, the defendant, had a charge filed against him back for an incident that took place on October 26th of last year. Basically, that incident was in the town of Lee, and the case is still pending in the town of Lee, in which his son went to another man's house, and these two people have been feuding. His son is 39 years old and is a relatively big man, and the victim in the case is a 70-year-old man. So obviously you've got quite a bit of difference in size and age in these two men. Yeah. So his son goes to the victim's house. They've been feuding. If you want to know the truth, it's all over a bunch of trees that were sold a couple of years
the trees
before.
apparently died.
The trees died, and the defendant worked at Ace Hardware. So that's how this is where apparently the feud starts. Well, anyways, the defendant goes to the victim's house on a Wednesday night. Has no reason in the world to be in that neighborhood other than this. The victim sees him. The 70-year-old man sees him. He walks up to him, basically tries to make peace. Says, this has got to stop. The defendant, according to the victim, says, and I will try to sugarcoat this because we're on the air, but he says, I'm not going to shake your hand. You're nothing but a piece of S. I hope you die. I'm going to kill you. F your wife, and then kill her. He then pointed at the neighbor's house and said, tell that A, I'm coming after him too, and then said, I'm going to kill him and rape his wife too. So that's the October 26, 2016 allegation and incident. And he was charged with harassment in the second degree. He is charged with basically threatening to do harm to somebody. And that's a violation. It's not even a crime. That case is pending in the town of Lee, and we have granted his son, to my knowledge, every single adjournment. I don't believe his son's ever been to court on that.
Yeah.
And the father has actually written letters to us asking. Now, obviously, you can understand the victim's point, and the victim was interviewed, and the victim wants an order of protection, a stay away, basically telling the guy to stay away from him.
Sure.
But what our plans was to adjourn that case in contemplation of dismissal, which means if he stays out of trouble in 6 months, it would be dismissed. He's never been to court to resolve that, so that case is still pending. So then what happens is on Saturday, March 4th, within this, keep in mind of what the father's saying about him not being able to go in public and all this other stuff. So on March 4th of this year, which is Saturday, at about 1:15, the defendant, the son, Kevin is his first name, is at Planet Fitness, okay? Seems to me that he can go out in public.
Well, I did ask that question yesterday. I said if you're
so
saying that
if you're saying that
it can't be
Fitness,
there,
the victim in this case, the same man, okay, is also at Planet Fitness. The defendant goes up to him and says, "You're a piece of S. I ought to smash you in the face right now." And then the victim tried to walk away from it. The defendant then walked up to him and said, I'm dying of brain cancer, and before I die, I'm going to take you out and kill you. Now, you're right. The man has, I have no reason to doubt that he has brain cancer, and I believe he does, and we actually have pictures of him and on his Facebook page. It clearly appears he's had brain surgery. So we understand that. But the problem is he's threatening somebody's life. So what happened was, my office didn't arrest him, okay? The victim in this case went to the Rome Police Department. It was a walk-in complaint, and he said, basically this guy just threatened to kill me again. This is a continuing thing. Can you do something? So apparently the Rome Police had the guy come in. Now, interestingly enough, when you know the backstory on this guy's father, the guy that you had on the radio, either him or the defendant himself is friends with a Rome cop. So they were really treating him with kid gloves. So this thing that he's painting this out is not true. But, the victim wanted something done. And really, I think what he wants is an order of protection. He just wants the guy to stay away from him. Whether it's the chemo or whether it's the brain injury from the cancer, whatever's causing this man to continue to threaten the other man,
right.
Is concerning to us, though, because, and here's the flip side of it, okay? What if I say I do nothing? I say, listen, I'm not going to do a thing. This man's got brain cancer. Forget it. Just don't take the charge. Let it go. And then
something
he
happens.
kills the man.
Yeah.
What if he kills the man? You know what? The victim's family's going to say, the DA had all this on his lap, and he did nothing. It's the DA's fault now. So we have been trying to work through this because, in reality, this is one of those things that, on its surface, it seems to be just a personnel conflict between the two, and it's not that big of a deal, although threats are being made. No actual physical injury's been inflicted on anybody. But the reality is they are serious threats. There's threats of rape. There's threats of, multiple homicides. And then throwing in on top of it that I have nothing to lose. I'm dying, so I'm going to kill you.
That almost becomes I don't want to use the word motive. I don't know what word would be used there, but it certainly gives. If he's saying I have nothing to lose,
there's no consequence.
Yeah,
right. There's no and to be honest with you, what we're trying to do, okay, but we haven't been able to get the defendant in court. But what we're trying to do is to get an order of protection so that if he does go near him next time, it'll be a more serious. But more importantly, we would like to try to get the defendant some sort of counseling, because what we believe is he has some grief issues here. I would, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if I had my way, I'd be able to put my hand on his head and make his brain cancer go away. I can't do that. But what I could do, or what we could do, and what my assistant's trying to do, is if he was to be able to be arraigned and he was to come to court, that we send him to what's called the FEU, the Forensic Evaluation Unit. And in his case, have him talk to somebody, have him get some counseling about dealing with, the trauma that he has to deal with, and that, I'm not sure if it's terminal brain cancer, like he says when he's threatening the guy, or whether it's operable. Or if it's treatable. I know he was, according to what I'm being told, receiving chemo. So we're trying to work through it, but, the problem is if he's well enough to be in Planet Fitness, and there's people in there working out, sweating, and everything. It's a little bit difficult for me to understand the argument, but I can't go to court.
Yeah. Okay.
In my understanding, Planet Fitness is the way it was relayed to me. It's either a daily thing or multiple times a week. It's part of his treatment. It's part of what he's being. He has to go. We have to work out a disposition where he can still go to Planet Fitness because
it's part of his
treatment.
All right.
I understand. Scott, I just want to quickly recap something. I know ADAs handle the cases. You're not necessarily in court. He claims his son was in court this week and did suffer a seizure. You're saying you have granted them delays and you're not aware that he was in court?
Oh, no, that's not. I didn't say that. He was in court and he did have a seizure.
Okay.
He was arrested by the Rome Police Department, and I don't think he was I'm not sure about the handcuffs.
It's a violation. But
what happened was, because of the March 4th incident that took place at Planet Fitness, My understanding is the police asked him and his father to come down. They brought him into court. In my understanding, there were not a lot of people in court. It was and then when he got in there and the judge started arraigning him, which basically means telling him what the charges are, he collapsed and did have a seizure. No, I'm not saying that didn't happen. It did. But I'm saying the Lee incident, the first one that started, he has been granted the adjournment because we were trying to work around his health issue.
It sounds like a very difficult situation. You understand somebody makes a claim on the radio. We feel it's important to get both sides of the story, and
thank you for coming on to address it.
So.
Quick, I know we're short on time. You asked a question, Bill, earlier this week about Peacemaker program. Scott, does that still exist?
It does.
Yeah.
And he's on. By the way, we have.
We have him on.
Mark Luthauser, called in yesterday. He's coming on this morning after 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
Would there be a possibility of trying to find some resolution where he didn't have to enter and go into court?
We try to. I mean, here's the problem. Once they're charged, the law. I mean, like, for example, you couldn't get charged for something and have somebody else show up and plead for you.
Right,
so,
right.
But we're trying to. The first one, we were trying to work around that. Now, when the second one came about, the March 4th incident, I don't know what to say. I mean, the police were investigating. The police were trying to figure it out, and then they had him go to court, and he collapsed.
Yeah.
Yes, honestly, if I had my way, they would go to a program like Peacemakers. They would work out their differences. They would agree to stay away from each other, and maybe he could get some counseling. Maybe. I don't know, but once again, it's not my expertise, but it does make me think that maybe some of this anger might be a direct result of the brain tumor, and maybe some of this behavior is a result of the brain tumor.
I think the father admitted that to us yesterday, saying he felt that his son has, because of the treatment, is having there's a mental disability at this point. So either way,
not thinking clearly.
Not thinking clearly. So we felt it important that you had the opportunity to respond.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
DA Scott McNamara, thank you so much.
If I could just say as well, we had a different the picture that was painted yesterday was kind of, he said, in other words, I'll kick your butt type of a deal, where we get a different feel this morning on what the nature of the threats were. Yeah.
Scott, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And by the way, you learn that as a parent when your kid comes home and tells you A, B, and C happened, and you immediately go and yell at the school and then find out, oh, look at this video. Actually, it was E, F, G that occurred. And, so it is what it is. All right.